All right. Well, welcome everybody. My name's Tim McDonald, and I am coming to you with our another episode of Advocacy at Work. And I am so grateful to have Erin Peterson from Colon Cancer Coalition here with us today. How are you doing, Erin?
Doing great. Thanks for having me.
Well, thank you for being here. And let's just jump right into it. Tell us a little bit about you, and maybe before we get into too much else, just tell us how you define advocacy, just so we set a baseline for everybody to understand when you mention the word, what it means as relation to how you guys use it.
Sure. So, like you said, my name is Erin Peterson. I am the Senior Director of Mission and Partnerships for the Colon Cancer Coalition. We are a national patient advocacy organization. We focus on colorectal cancer screening, disease education, patient support, and some research behind patient quality of life things. So when we talk about being an advocacy organization, what we really mean for us is empowering patients to be advocates for themselves, educating each other, educating other people in their family. So really giving patients the resources and the information that they need to make a difference in their lives and the lives of people around them.
Very nice. Well, thank you for explaining that. I know as a colorectal cancer survivor just how important the work that you guys do is. So why don't you tell us a little bit more just in general about the Colon Cancer Coalition, just so I know you guys talked about what you did, or you talked about what you did for the organization, but explain like overall like what you guys are about and how you fit into the whole world of colorectal cancer.
Yeah, so if you're not familiar with the Colon Cancer Coalition and you're in the colon cancer space, you may be familiar with our Get Your Rear in Gear event series, which is a 5K run walk event series, approximately 40 across North America each year. We're in most states as well as the Bahamas. So we are a North American organization, not just a national organization. But really those Get Your Rear in Gear events do is create a sense of community in each of the cities where we are, and raise some money to do work to get patients screened, to get patients educated in the communities where that money is raised. So the bulk of the advocacy work and the funding that we do out of our organization is to our Get Your Rear in Gear event cities.
And I know the one in Orlando, Florida. I've been there the last couple of years, so always a great.
It's a great event. It's always really warm in Florida at the race, but it's always
very warm and a little sticky too at that time of the year. Tell me, looking at Colon Cancer Coalition and the beginning of the advocacy, your advocacy program, was it kind of from the very beginning, or when did advocacy kind of jump into the mix for you guys?
So advocacy happened very organically for the coalition. When we started, it started with a single woman. Her name was Kristen Linquist. She lost her sister Suzie to young-onset colorectal cancer. Suzie had been a runner, been very active in the running community out in Seattle, Washington, and had started a Get Your Rear in Gear team for one of the marathons out in the area. And when Suzie passed away, Kristen wanted to do something to honor her memory and brought Get Your Rear in Gear to Minneapolis, Minnesota, where she was living at the time. And approached a running club and said, I want to do this in honor of my sister. And from there, that first event in 2005, which was one of the first, not the first, but one of the first awareness runs for colorectal cancer. She had people contact her from Texas and from North Carolina and saying, I saw what you did in the Twin Cities. I want to do that here. And so advocacy, in terms of when we talk about our volunteers who are our advocates, was a very kind of organic part of who we are. It's what actually drives the entire organization is our volunteers and our advocates. We wouldn't be here without the work that our advocates do. Our volunteers, we don't go out and say, hey, we don't have an event in Orlando. We want to start when we have a volunteer from Orlando come to us and say, I want to do this in honor of someone that, in the Orlando example, Ashley lost her friend, and I want to do this in honor of her. So advocates are who we are. We wouldn't be here without them. They are the lifeblood of who the Colon Cancer Coalition is.
And so I love the fact that it started organically, and I love what you're talking about as far as you don't go out and say, okay, here are the 6 cities we want to launch in. It's all about like the advocates coming to you and raising their hand and saying, I want to do this here in my community. Yeah. But since that kind of started, how have you seen the advocacy program evolve with the coalition?
Yeah, so what started as our local event directors and their committees in each city has become kind of an embracing community for the colorectal cancer people on all stages of the journey, whether it's a newly diagnosed patient, someone that is currently in treatment, someone who is, a multi-year survivor, caregivers who have lost people. We have providers that have seen how colorectal cancer can devastate a family or a community that come on board and say, I want to make a difference in where I live and where I work. Our advocacy now extends to the health centers that we work with to fund screening programs or make sure that people have the ability to have a follow-up colonoscopy after a positive stool-based test, those types of things. So our advocacy has extended from just a volunteer that wants to make a difference to people across the spectrum within the colorectal cancer community that really have seen what this disease does to the people around them and wanting to really make a difference.
Nice. And I always like to understand too, because I know a lot of what we talk about in the advocacy world is, I don't think anybody disagrees with the work, but I know we also, just like whether you're a nonprofit or for-profit, everybody has to be accountable to either a board or executive committee or whatever it is. So how do you actually measure the impact of the advocacy program that you guys have?
So I don't know that I'd say we measure the impact of the advocacy program. We look at how at the cities where we're making a difference. What we do is very hard to quantify, right? We can't look at, I would love to be able to say, because of this, awareness program that we funded in Kansas City, Missouri, we got, X number of people screened. That's not how the work, unfortunately, that we do is, but we have we get a lot of stories, we get a lot of feedback, and the fact that we are always expanding our footprint. We're adding new communities that want to come on board, either with a Get Your Own Gear or another event that's not a Get Your Own Gear, but wants to support the work that we're doing. I think that gives us information that we're doing something right. People want to be a part of who we are and what we're doing, and they see the community that we've built, and they look at the way that our volunteers and our advocates act together in creating a sense of community, and they want to be a part of that, which is really exciting and gratifying for those of us that work for the organization.
No, I love that. And I love that you brought up the fact that, it's hard to measure, because I know it's not an easy question to answer. And I love the fact that you also brought up the fact that, sometimes it's the stories that are showing the impact that you have, not necessarily a number that you can present. So I think that's very important for people to hear and understand, when we look at, the results of advocacy programs, and a lot of times, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but from what my knowledge is, being in this space, is it's not always something that like a sale where you can ring it up and that you sold it for this, it cost you this, here's how much profit you made. Sometimes the impact that advocacy programs have are years down the road from when the actual event or member took the
Right.
action. So is that the case with you guys? And
Yeah.
and if so, do you reflect back or capture that in some way to say, hey, do you remember when we did this, that very first, get
Right.
your rear and gear event, and and look at what happened, 15 years, 20 years later because of that,
Right. I mean, we look at the community that we built, has been built in the Twin Cities, which is where our first race was. We celebrated the 20th Get Your Ring Gear Twin Cities last year in 2014. And there are teams and there are patients and there are groups of people that have been with us from the very beginning that, came up and like, this is my, 18th race. This is my, 14th. This, I was at the first one. I've missed some, but I'm back again for 20. Or, this is my third. We just had someone in our family diagnosed, or we had someone pass away. And I hope that even if teams or groups of people aren't able to be with us every year, that they maintain that sense of community, or the fact that when they were going through something as horrible as a colorectal cancer journey, diagnosis, even losing a loved one, that they remember that sense of support and community that they had. In addition, hopefully there are people that see messages when they're, 15, 18, 25, 30, 40, and then when it's time to be 45 and they're an average risk individual, they get screened, right? Like, those are messages that if we start telling people early, that they will get screened on time and hopefully be able to even prevent a cancer from happening. Or they'll hear something about us talking about blood in your stool is not normal, and get their symptoms evaluated and get a cancer diagnosis early rather than delaying it because they are uncertain about what they might hear from a doctor. But hearing those messages from us over and over, or early, hopefully some of those stick around too and can have a lasting impact on families and community.
No, I love that. And I can tell you just from my experience in 2 years going in Orlando to the Get Your Rear and Gear event, that I've seen everything that you've just mentioned as far as spouses who have lost a loved one, people traveling for the first time, and then faces that I see year over year. And it's such a unique and special bond that I think we all have. And so thank you for putting that together and making that possible.
It's so fun to see, people that wouldn't be connected because, and they may only see each other every year at the race. But they have those connections there because they had a really good conversation standing in line at the water tent, or, reading a t-shirt and making a conversation and just making those connections. It's really powerful. And it's, one of the reasons I keep doing what I'm doing.
Yeah. Well, let's have a little bit of fun now and take a
Okay.
break before we wrap up here. I'm just going to throw out some questions.
Oh boy.
Don't want you to think too hard about it. Just give me the first thing that kind of pops into your head, and I'll start kind of easy and we'll get a little bit more difficult. So
Uh-oh.
if it goes
Okay.
on, it won't be too bad. I trust me. But so what's your favorite color?
As a colorectal cancer advocate, I should say blue, but it's probably purple.
Let's go with purple then. And what is your favorite band or musician?
Matchbox 20.
Now, where is some place in the world that you've always wanted to go but haven't been?
Greece.
And what is your favorite food to eat?
Pizza? Can I say that as a 40-something-year-old?
Of course you can. It's probably right up there for me too. So. Well, thank you so much for sharing. I always like doing that. It gives everybody a little sense of who you are as a person, not just somebody speaking about advocacy. So, which in advocacy world, we're all just people, and we all are impacted by something that has driven us to, become advocates. And so it's definitely always nice to get people to know people a little bit outside of that world a little bit. So thank you for sharing that. So now I'm just going to throw out kind of one big question for you, that is, if resources were no option, in other words, you could do anything that you wanted, what would you like to do with your advocacy program?
I would love to find a way to make screening available for everyone. I think when you talk about having lots of money, people say curing cancer is a big one, but colorectal cancer is this unique thing where we can find it and prevent it from happening with a colonoscopy and removing polyps. And even some of the non-invasive screening methods that are coming out can identify, precancerous adenomas, and being able to do that and prevent cancer from happening so a patient doesn't have to go through chemotherapy and immunotherapy and the treatment process. I think colorectal cancer has a unique opportunity to prevent all of that from happening.
And I just want to, push a little bit on like how you would make that happen through advocates. And I have my ideas, but I want to hear yours.
I would love to hear your ideas too.
And it doesn't have to get granular, but a little bit more like.
I mean, I could be very specific in terms of like making sure everyone has transportation. Like transportation is a huge barrier to getting screening. Childcare.
And just so people know, they understand this. When you get a colonoscopy, you cannot drive yourself. You cannot take an Uber or a taxi. You need to have somebody there and stay with you the entire time.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why it's a big deal.
So having the fund, even if it's funds, to make sure that the colonoscopy screening is available, or funding for someone to take the time off work, funding to pay for childcare during that, not just the test itself, but the bowel prep that is associated with the colonoscopy. Funding for over-the-counter bowel preps that are required at some physicians' offices. Funding to pay for the copays that are required currently for some bowel prep medications. Funding for patient navigators, like the people in the clinics that make sure that questions are answered, patients get rescheduled if something comes up, those that can answer questions, those key people that aren't your doctor, they're not your nurse, but they're the people that make healthcare happen. Yeah. Patient navigators.
And I think the one I would add in is creating awareness among every single person in the U.S. that they should be getting screened at 45, because not even everybody knows that right now.
Right. There are some physicians that don't know that right now.
That is very true, unfortunately. So, well, Erin, thank you so much for joining us on Advocacy at Work. If people want to get in touch with the coalition, with you, mm-hmm. I don't know, if you want to share too much information, obviously we'll put this in the show notes and the blog that goes up on the site, but just in general, what's the best way for people to learn a little bit more about what the coalition does?
Yep. So coloncancercoalition.org is our website. It's also how you can Colon Cancer Coalition on Facebook, Instagram. You can email me directly. It's just Erin, ERIN, at coloncancercoalition.org. Otherwise, anything else, all our other contact information, social media, all of that, the website is probably the best way.
Perfect. Well, thank you again. And thank you for tuning in today.